The surprise of the offseason had to be the Columbus Blue Jackets winning the Johnny Gaudreau sweepstakes, which we never thought they were even in on. But are they even ready to challenge for the playoffs?
No.
So
no.
Before we ask that question, gentlemen, we must first consult the odds. Sports Interaction, what do we have?
Sports Interaction doesn't think, the betting market doesn't think they're going to be challenging for a playoff spot either. Their over-under is 79.5.
Ooh. They had 81 points last year, so they're saying even with Gaudreau, they'll lose one more game.
Yeah,
than
you
they
could
won.
bet the over and they would hit it and still fall short of last year.
Holy smokes.
That's a tough one because I feel like Elvis Merzlikins will be better than he was last year. The Blue Jackets uncharacteristically allowed a bananas amount of
Well, it's
goals.
because they had a different system and Torts wasn't there.
And no Seth Jones anymore, am I right?
Anyway, we're excited to see Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine play together. That'll be fun.
Yes.
But you had to lose Bjorkstrand to do it.
Yeah, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch, but
What are the Blue Jackets really? What are they right now?
dormant. A dormant giant.
They got pieces, but the full puzzle hasn't been made yet.
Well, when it's funny, the Gaudreau signing in Columbus, I remember at the time the narrative for the Blue Jackets is this is the sign of a new era in Columbus, and players are going to now potentially flock to Columbus. It's a destination. And it also means the Flames are screwed and no one wants to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And both teams' fortunes completely flipped after that signing because the Flames were able to do a ton. And the Blue Jackets, who have a busy bee of a GM, Jarmo Kekalainen, he's what do they call it? Itchy feet? He's got itchy feet.
Mm-hmm.
Loves moving around, making moves.
They did nothing
Did nothing.
after getting Gaudreau.
Now, I put like a little asterisk in my notes because with Jarmo Kekalainen as GM, I have a difficult time believing the team they currently have is the team they'll go into the season with. And I also have a difficult time believing the team they currently have is the team they'll end the season with.
Sure.
I think they're going to try to make big, significant moves. But if you kind of look at the roster, I think not rebuild, not tear it down. They're building. So I would say a little retool.
And that build has to start around Ken Johnson and Cole Sillinger.
Yes, it
And
does.
Jack
Roslovich, yeah.
Yeah. Well, different age category though
Yeah.
than those two. Ken Johnson's really good. Boone Jenner is currently listed on LTIR,
Mm-hmm. But he would slot in as their number one center?
Yeah, it'd
think
probably
so.
be Jenner and Gaudreau and Laine.
Okay.
And Voracek had a real good resurgent season last year.
Mhm.
Roslovic showed a little bit more than I think people realized was there.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say they're bad. You know, what
They're
I
not
mean?
going to be an easy out.
Yeah, like there's teams you look at and you're like, oh, they're really they're tanking for Bedard. Whereas the Blue Jackets, I think, are just sort of in the middle of a process toward getting better,
so
and they're doing good things. It doesn't necessarily mean they're good, though.
I'm just curious, guys, though, like a lot of the teams you look at, and you have to look at it like, what's the win for this season? Like you look at the Leafs, it's easy. Get to the second round, probably the third, right?
Yeah.
That's a win for the Leafs. If you're the Avalanche, it's winning the cup again. If you're the Arizona Coyotes, it's the race for the bottom along with the Chicago Blackhawks and a few other teams. What is a win for the Columbus Blue Jackets? Is it up more? Is it down more? What are we hoping for here?
As many playoff home dates as possible.
And how do we get to the playoffs? Because I don't think they're getting there.
Young guys are really going to have to impress. We're talking Ken
Right.
Johnston. We're talking, did I say Johnston?
Johnson.
Sorry, the force of habit there, CJ. Ken Johnson and also Yegor Chinnikov is I think he has 4 goals already this preseason. We'll see how big of a factor he is for that team. Basically, the Blue Jackets need to show more on the ice than they do on paper, which is kind of good news for them because they often do.
That's their thing.
They kind of put together these teams on paper where you go, okay. But then they end up doing better than that. And hopefully they get a few more saves than they did last year.
How do you win the lottery?
You play?
You gotta buy a lottery ticket. And it seems like Columbus, they have a lot of lottery tickets. At least they've
Okay.
joined the fight. They're in the fight. They might not win it, but they've joined the fight. They've bought a lottery ticket and they've given themselves a chance to try and do something this year.
I tell you what, I hope they get Connor Bedard because they're doing it the honest way.
Yeah. So
It's a draft lottery. So if they miss the playoffs, all these teams are tanking. They're trying to get better odds. No. The Columbus Blue Jackets got the first overall pick for the first time since Rick Nash, and they did it while building. And all of a sudden, wham, playoffs next year.
That would change their entire franchise. But they have a collection of
franchise.
19 through 21-year-olds who may be something, who may take another step and might do something and might give them a fighting chance at a playoff spot here. And I think that's their goal for this season, is to be in the fight. If you get down to March and February and Columbus is challenging for an 8 seed in the Eastern Conference, that's a successful season for the Columbus Blue Jackets, in my opinion.
Do you have their cap friendly up?
I do.
I'd be curious, how much cap space do they have right now?
They have, in projected cap space, $1.4 million.
Yeah,
They're
that's
right
not
up
a lot.
against it.
That's not a ton. I wanted to see if they could be one of the teams, because there are a lot of teams who need to find a way to get cap compliant by day one of the season. And I was wondering if Kekalainen would weaponize that. I just don't see him doing nothing. It's just not his style.
I like Jarmo Kekalainen, but as a general manager, there are times where I feel like he's got unforced errors. There are times where I feel like, man, that could have been handled better. Like you look at...
He's late career Mark McGuire. He either hits home runs or strikes out.
Yeah, it feels that way.
No walks.
No walks. Just...
Never.
Yeah. I'm either standing on first base or I'm sitting on the bench. Or no, either way, he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
I think there are times where I'm like, man, I'm blown away. Johnny Gaudreau is the perfect example. The trade he was able to get with Patrick Laine has been fantastic. Honestly, like Laine needs to round out his game perhaps a little bit more, but I gotta say, like, you can't find players that score like that. You just cannot find them.
This is the year the Laine we all expected at the beginning of his career shows up.
I think so too. I completely agree with that. Whether they're good or not, I think he's going to be great. But one thing that I'm just still don't understand is Erica Branson. That is an unforced error. What does Erica Branson add at the term? And let me just look up the contract here for you. Okay,
Wasn't it
It's 4 times 4.
He is the second highest paid defenseman on this team.
Mm-hmm. The immediate need for the Columbus Blue Jackets coming off of last season was that their defense was awful. They weren't. We talked about heavy teams in a previous season preview. They were the lightest team of all teams. So Kekalainen went out and said, "This is an exact thing I need right here. Is a giant man like Erica Branson to just stand there on the ice and beat him." And I understand the methodology.
Ideology?
The thinking behind it. I understand what he's trying to do. I don't agree with it, but I get it to an extent.
I mean, but Erica Branson doesn't make defenses better.
The contract is a natural disaster. The player, I think it's more about Erica Branson, the person.
Okay, and that's fair.
Because
he's a great guy.
You ever look at a player and you look at their career earnings versus their career statistics or career anything, and you just go, that guy must be the best guy. He must have
People
the
love him.
Funniest jokes, the best restaurant recommendations. I bet his house has the best snacks. Just everything. Fashion advice, dating advice, you name it. Erica Branson has it. That is what we would call a locker room signing, but that is not a $4 million defenseman, and that's not a $4 million for the next 4 years defenseman.
I didn't get it.
I want to know who he was competing with for that number.
Somebody was wanting to pay
that. Was a team that got bullied, so they got a bully to bully back.
Chuck Fletcher.
But what's the where does the $4 million come from?
I
Why
think
did you have
Adam
to
nailed
pay
it.
that number?
Chuck Fletcher.
Maybe they went to the maybe it was Cliff Fletcher. Maybe they offered him the wrong guy, the wrong deal. Like Jeff Finger and Kurt Sauer. If you've never heard that story, look it up. I hope that's got to be a culture thing or a getting beat up thing because it's just not the right value.
But on the home run side, I really like Jake Bean, and that's where I think he found value in Jake Bean. And so it's sort of like there's the two sides of Jarmo Kekalainen and I do not understand, but we've got no time left. Where do you put the Columbus Blue Jackets in the division, guys, out of 8?
I like where they're going, despite that, 7th.
Wow, 7th place. Okay, Jesse, where do you have them?
I also have them in 7th place.
Damn.
Shout out Nick Blankenberg for one of the best names in
That's
hockey.
a great.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
That's former German aristocracy somewhere back there. Blankenberg.
Yeah, awesome name.
Absolutely.
Someone said his name recently, and I thought they were making a guy up.
Really?
Well, because it sounds like Johnny No Name. Like, it's just because blank is in it.
Right.
Steve Blank.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Blankenberg. Haha. And
Adam,
they're like,
where do you have?
By the way, I also have Columbus at 7.
No, Steve, tell us more.
What up, baby?
you know, another thing about Blankenberg.